Welcome to the Virtual Antics podcast, where we help entrepreneurs streamline their business to six figures and beyond. These short, sweet, and info-packed episodes will inspire, educate, and leave you feeling motivated to take one more step forward in your business. So put down your never-ending to-do list, because in this podcast, we are interviewing the best of the best in the entrepreneurial world as they spill their secrets to success. This podcast is sponsored by Nodora, the all-in-one software for entrepreneurs to grow their business with unlimited landing pages, automations, emails and text campaigns, and so much more. I'm your host, Natalie Guzman. Now let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to Virtual Antics Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Natalie Guzman. Today, I have a really good friend of mine. I was on his podcast a few months ago. He is absolutely amazing. I'd like to introduce y'all to Chaz Wolfe. Welcome, Chaz. How you doing?
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. It's an honor to be here and serve your audience. I'm excited.
I am so excited because I really appreciate you as a business owner. So I went through your whole podcast, and your system is just so amazing, and how you wrap everyone into this amazing community. So can you tell our listeners what you do and kind of how you got started?
Yeah, well, so I'm a serial entrepreneur, which just means I'm crazy. We'll just kind of leave it at that. But I have started and currently have multiple businesses. I'm in retail. I'm in real estate. We have a construction company. We have a podcast. We've got a community, a peer mastermind community called Gathering the Kings, which is kind of what you're referring to. So yes, we love entrepreneurs. We know how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. And we just try to bring high quality, high value, down to earth entrepreneurs together to help each other out. And so that's kind of what we do.
That's awesome. It's addicting starting businesses, huh? I feel like once you start one, you want to start them all. I have had four different businesses now.
Yeah, it's interesting because we go through these iterations of like, I could do that and I can do that. And once you develop a few skill sets, you're like, I could do all of it. And it's actually we were just got off of our roundtable this morning, which you got to come to a couple months ago. But one of the pieces of advice for the guy in the hot seat today was like, look, man, actually you should get rid of a few things, because at some point the value becomes in the no as opposed to the yes. So it's a tug pull, especially for people like you and I that like love that next new thing. But it doesn't mean necessarily that I have to have only one thing. It just means that I have to operate in a way that's efficient, which means I have great teams and I have great people, and my business becomes different. I have to think portfolio as opposed to like I am a construction business owner or fill in the blank.
Yeah, and I love that you're taking the knowledge of all your businesses and now sharing it with other entrepreneurs. So tell us a little bit about your mastermind, what the roundtable is, because it is super cool format. I absolutely loved my time joining it.
Yeah, well, so Gathering the Kings exists first and foremost, a mastermind, as you've said. There's a lot of group coaching programs, or something that you can join as an entrepreneur that can bring value. And I've done that, spent a lot of money on that, and I think that those are great. Those are not masterminds. Mastermind, per the definition of Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, is when two or more minds are working in harmony together unto the definite chief aim of something and completion of that chief aim. And so for us, we call that chief aim the exceptional life. And all of the people that join Gathering the Kings, kings and queens, we want to live the exceptional life. We want to create and live the exceptional life. And what that looks like for us is winning in all areas. Yes, I want to have a great business. Most already have a great business, but they want to have an even better business. But they also want to have a great marriage, and they also want to have, a lifestyle. They want to have health. They want to have faith. Like all these things for them, that means winning and like truly kind of having it all. It's like this thing that we all talk about, maybe hear about, maybe even read a book on, but like, how do you go do that? Well, we break it down pretty simply into winning in all areas, and then really becoming the best version of you, which then helps you win in all areas. So there's a bunch packed into that, but that's what Gathering the Kings is all about.
Yeah, and I love it because I always say I want to be healthy physically, mentally, and financially. And that's kind of what your mastermind does, which is super cool. Because you guys like even do the trips. I think you did like a hiking trip or something.
Yeah. So we have it broken down into virtual appointment or events, as well as in person. And so, yeah, we've done some really cool stuff. We've been deep sea fishing in Florida. We've been hiking in the mountains in Georgia. We've been side by sides in the sand dunes in Utah. Everybody was here in Kansas City for a VIP tailgate party and a 40-yard line, Chiefs tickets. It's just really what I think what you're talking about mostly is I want to be around people like me. And as entrepreneurs, and we could probably talk about this, because whether it's ones that need VAs, like the service that you have, when we've referred a lot of our clients to you, but these people, these entrepreneurs that are trying to grow, are probably on an island. They're not surrounded by people that are like them. Like I started off by saying I'm crazy. I know that. I know you're crazy. And
Yeah.
you don't have many people in your world, maybe a few at best,
Mhm.
where you can like truly kind of be open and honest about what's going on in your world, and for them to understand. You might be able to share with your family or friends or church folk or whatever, but they're not going to like actually get you. So I think that bringing them into a community and like giving them a place to belong, but then it's always like the next level, like you're talking about, whether it's a trip or whether it's a virtual roundtable where we're like dissecting strategies, or like, how do I just go to the next level? I want to win, Natalie. Come on.
Yeah, it's awesome. And one of my very first jobs as a VA was for another mastermind group. And I can't tell you how powerful it was to sit in a room of a bunch of millionaires, because it was a millionaires mastermind,
Yeah.
and just to hear their stories, their inspirations, all their goals were aligned. And they really preached that your network is your net worth, right? And I've
Yeah.
always lived by that, because we move every 2 years with my husband's job. And I find that in certain towns, I feel like almost like I'm being dragged under. People don't have the same ambitions. They're just going through
Yeah.
the daily life, they're working the same job for 20 years. And I knew that was never me. I was always trying to go more. I would work
Yeah.
somewhere for 2 years, get bored. I have to move on to the next thing. That's why
That's
entrepreneurship
right.
is amazing for those type of people, because it's
Yeah.
never boring, right? It's always challenges. And some of those towns, people didn't want to be like that. They were happy,
Yeah.
working that same job, which is awesome for them. And
Yeah.
then other towns I'd go to, and they're always coming up with like new inventions. There's co-working spaces now everywhere. And,
Yeah.
everyone just wants to meet up for a coffee, to brainstorm, to collaborate.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how we have like these communities, and they're all so different. So really finding yourself a community, especially in a mastermind group like yours, is
Yeah.
super, super beneficial, because we can't do it alone. Like
Yeah.
you can't do business alone. You're going to fail. You're going to probably drop out within a year, I'd say, if you're trying to do it alone.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think that the thing that for the listeners here is not to go to, Gathering the Kings particularly, although maybe it's, you have to understand the principle of the mastermind. And when Napoleon Hill talked about this in Think and Grow Rich, he would come into his quote unquote mastermind with 7 or 8 made up figures. I mean, they were figures in his mind of important people like a Henry Ford or, Thomas Edison. And maybe that would be the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezos of today. But he didn't even have actual people. He had to do it in his mind because he had met those people once or twice, but he wanted to get the strategy and the stories and the inspiration from them particularly, and he just didn't have the ability to meet with those people. The principle remains the same. You got to find the people that you want to be around that can not just encourage you and uplift you. That's part of it, yes, but challenge you and pull you into the next version of yourself, which kind of leans on another principle, which I think both you and I agree on, is like there's always another level. If there's always another level in business, I'm going to need another person to hire. That's where Natalie comes in. There's always another person or another level for me as a leader. There's another level of money, another level of marriage or health, like you said, like just so many different, I guess, pressure points that we can have as entrepreneurs. But when you're with those people around you, it lessens the blow. You get strategies. Like we had a guy today in the hot seat, literally today, just a few hours ago. He runs about an $8 million pest control company, and the synopsis is, I have never, literally, some of his words, I have never shared like this in a group. I mean, I've shared like this in a group, but not heard or not given the strategic questions or the feedback like this. I feel like I have clarity. I feel like I have the ability to move forward. It was just like night and day from some of the other experiences. And so you have to be able to kind of take a look at that. Yes, mastermind is important, but also the right group is just as important.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I really loved, when I did experience the roundtable, was like the way you structured it was really, really important. So you can join any type of group, but I really encourage people to look at how it's structured, and the questions you told us what type of questions to ask, for the person that was in the hot seat. And
Yeah.
I think that gave us, really good structure, because we're not just asking anything or everything. It's very focused. And then the person that's receiving the advice knows what to expect. Like, these are the type of questions. So this is going to be my line of thinking. And I think that's really important, because entrepreneurs, we can think in 10 different ways. You could
Oh
ask
yeah.
one
At the same
question,
time.
we're all going to answer it differently.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's good, like, right? Because that's perspective is agitation of thought, which kind of goes back to the definition of mastermind again. It's like, man, I want to agitate thought here a little bit. I don't want it to always be an echo chamber of what I already think and believe. So we try to do cool things like, having different people from different industries, different people from different parts of the country, different size businesses, although most of them are pretty big. But I think that the diversity, which you're talking about there, is so true and so spot on. But structure can kind of help with that.
Yeah, definitely. And it needs to be structured because I feel like you get so much more value out of something that is structured, even if it's loosely structured. So I'm not saying like
Yeah,
you have to do this, but just having like an overall guideline and
yeah,
knowing what to expect is really, really cool. So, and
totally.
I love it. And I've gone through, like your funnels. And the one thing that I realized that you're really about is community, right? I got like a postcard when I was on your podcast. I've gotten the emails, I've seen like how your videos are structured and your reviews. And I'm like, okay, everything is about community. And that is so cool because a lot of times, even though it's a mastermind, you'd think that'd be about community. They're not always structured like that. They're not
Right.
structured to build and nurture relationships. And I think that's really
Yeah.
one of the key qualities that your mastermind has.
Well, I appreciate that because you're spot on. It goes back to what I said a few minutes ago about, group coaching. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just
Mhm.
signed up for a group coaching mastermind a couple of days ago, because I really revere one of the founders, and I'm excited about learning maybe some things from him. But I knew what it was going to be. I didn't have any like misunderstandings, but it was just funny going through kind of like the onboarding. It's like, oh man, like they need some help. This is not relational driven at all. There's going to be a call today, apparently on Zoom. Like I've gotten a text message from who I have no clue. It was probably automated, which is fine. But it's like for those of us, for the entrepreneurs that are out there that are just down to earth and just kind of want to rub shoulders with some other actual humans, um, that's a big reason why GTK exists.
Yeah, it's super cool. I loved it. I loved meeting I still talk to some of your members, and I think it's just so cool. They're all down to earth and they're all realistic too. I feel like they're not necessarily, sometimes with entrepreneurs, we can have unrealistic expectations and dreams, and we can kind of go down rabbit holes and
Yeah,
never finish anything. It's one of the downsides of entrepreneurship, but all the ones
that's right.
I've met, they're very goal driven. They know what they want, they know how to clarify it. And it was just really cool. They're all very welcoming. They knew I was just coming in just to see and test the waters and see how it was. And they were all really, really
Yeah,
nice and sweet. So, and yeah, and then
that's
you're
good.
having some queens too. So that was pretty cool. I got to be
Yeah,
called a queen at Gathering of the Kings. So
yeah.
that was a lot of fun.
The mindset there isn't masculine. It's how to win, right?
Yeah.
And when I think of like, so Julie, my wife, she's not business oriented. She doesn't really, want to have to, read a P&L or, run a financial meeting or do a team meeting with anybody. She plays a support role when I need her here and there, but what she does love to do is win. And I think that we all have different definitions of what that looks like. That's why the exceptional life is made up of what your definitions are. It's going to look different than my exceptional life, but they're both you winning in all areas and me winning in all areas. So I think if someone can define that down, like really boil that down as to what that looks like for them, and then to be able to go after it, it just changes the game, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. And I've even been a part of like women masterminds and things like that. And, when I first got into entrepreneurship, it was all women owned business, women this, women that, serve women, work with women. And then we got a couple of guys accidentally as clients. I was like, man, these guys are chill. They're so cool. And I was like, wait, they have really awesome businesses and they think
Yeah,
so different than
that's right.
I do. And it's because I was surrounding myself with people who actually thought just like me.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
were probably moms that started their business in their living room. And so when you surround yourself with like a diversity group as yours, it's really cool because you get to learn things that maybe are ahead of you and you just don't know it yet.
yeah,
And you get to see through their experiences and how they handle problems different than you. You want to experience not something that's just like you. Even though you're gonna be around like-minded people, that doesn't mean they're 100% your carbon copy. So I
yeah.
thought that was really, really cool that like I knew that like I could learn from all the different people in your group and that they were all really smart and good at what they did. And some of them were really good at a specific part of business. And then I could learn from that and I could give my expertise. I like all my systems and funnels, and that's my passion. So that was really cool that I got to hear from them, and then they got to ask me questions. So that was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, cool. So what type of people should join a mastermind? Do you think it's every entrepreneur? Do you think it's just someone at a certain stage of business? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that there's actually a great question. Everybody should have a group, and so it's just what does that need that they have? What does the group fill as a need? I mean, and so I would say that a business owner that's sub million is probably thinking more tactical, like sales, marketing, client fulfillment, finance, repeat. And it's kind of those 4 steps of the game. And it's just a matter of kind of doing that cycle as fast as you can until you can kind of get to the $1 million mark. And that's, you start building a team a little bit before that, but kind of at that level, you should have some makings of the beginnings of a team. And really from 1 to 5 or 5 to 10, it just becomes more and more strategic around team building and people, human development. Of course, there's bigger revenue targets and revenue goals and stuff like that, but the conversation is different. So for like Gathering the Kings, we've got different kind of access points for different size businesses. And we try to do that on purpose because the guy that is doing 30 million is thinking something completely different about this week in his business than the guy that's at 500K. Although both can learn from each other, and that's where that down to earth humility. So we'll definitely cross reference and cross pollinate, but there is a different conversation happening in their business. So I think for the listener right now, the question that you're asking is, where are you at in your business? It doesn't have to be a specific revenue mark. It's more so like what's happening in the business. And typically just in those kind of sections I just gave there, as far as revenue numbers, that's what's happening. Sub million, you're thinking sale or marketing, sales, client fulfillment, repeat. And then how do I just keep doing that, until it's on autopilot or until I have a good enough people in place to where I personally, as the entrepreneur, am not doing any of those. And and then it's about team building and growing leadership and a whole nother phase. So there's groups out there for all that.
That's awesome. So where can we find more about Gathering the Kings and you?
Yeah, chazwolfe.com or gatheringthekings.com. I've been on several podcasts like yours, and of course, we have our own called Gathering the Kings. In fact, we've got a pretty big name coming up here in a few weeks. Brad Lee is going to be on the show. We're excited about having Brad. But the group itself, like I said, we've got different access points for different size businesses, and whether you're king or queen, we would welcome a conversation around what the exceptional life looks like for you, and if we can help you get there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Chaz. So good seeing you again, though. And we'll talk to you guys next time on the Virtual Antics Podcast.